But what happens after a boom phase in the real estate cycle? I wonder, a correction, which is why the government is trying to calm that correction, but the market will likely always do what it's going to do, and it's going to correct itself no matter what the government does. Hey, this is Matt Pichet, the Fruitful Investor, and your investing coach. And today's video is about the Ontario Fair Housing Plan that the Ontario government just released today and how that's going to affect real estate investors going forward. Now, I will say that I appreciated the Premier and the Finance Minister saying that with these new changes, they are not trying to kill the real estate market or cool it right down overnight. All they're trying to do is just calm it down a little bit and let the market do its thing going forward. That's exactly very true from the changes, but they also pointed out that the market is insanely hot, and you have to be honest with yourself. All the people who are denying that the market is heading towards bubble territory, okay, you have to be honest with yourself. It is insane the amount of growth that we've seen in the past year, 16 months, like totally insane. Offers not based on fundamentals, they're simply based on emotions and competing with the next person and not making offers based on any data at all. And that's a perfect sign of a bubble, if you will, and to put it better, a term that is going around, irrational exuberance. When people are going crazy and think the market can only go up, it's only gonna keep going up, okay, that is a direct sign that we're heading towards bubble territory, whether you like that term or not. Now, let's get into some of the points. Now, there is 16 changes that the Ontario government is gonna do. Most of them aren't really gonna affect real estate investors that a little bit or even at all. So I chose to talk about the top 3 that will likely affect you, the Canadian citizen real estate investor here. So number 1 is the foreign buyer tax. So again, it's not really gonna affect you, the Canadian citizen or the Canadian investor here looking to buy more properties. What it will likely do is cool the market a little bit. Even though foreign buyers make up such a minuscule part of the market, I know they don't have the exact data on that, but they know it's not very much at all. It's still gonna put some fear into domestic buyers here in the area. And we saw that with the foreign buyer tax in BC. It cooled the whole market down, even though even there, they had probably more foreign buyers buying Vancouver properties than buying Toronto, but even the citizens of BC and Vancouver stopped buying as well, because they just had this fear in their mind that things were just going to cool down and not go as well. And that's probably what's going to happen here as well. Things will likely cool a little bit. Again, it won't be overnight, but we'll see how that plays out in the future to come. Number 2, this one will definitely affect real estate investors directly, and that's the expanding of rent controls. So if you had a property that was built after 1991, you were exempt from a lot of the rent controls, and you could pretty much do whatever you wanted with increasing your rent. Just like we see in other provinces here in Canada, they had kind of the same rules. So they put a kibosh to that. Now it's all residential properties are faced with the same rent control rules, which is the maximum of 2.5% per year for the Ontario limit. Now all properties are subject to that. And this past year, the rent was 1.5% that we were allowed to raise the rent here. So that might affect you, especially if you have a newer condo in Toronto or newer properties in Ontario. Well, now you're subject to the old rules, as well as they're gonna make a common lease, so a standard lease that all Ontario has to use, which I think is actually a very good idea, because even though we can do our own leases in Ontario, it didn't matter anyway. We still had to apply, or the rules still had to apply with the landlord-tenant board no matter what. They overruled our leases no matter what. So it doesn't make a difference. It'll just make things a lot easier actually going forward. So I kind of like that one. Number 3, the other big one is paper flipping or wholesaling. So right now it seems like it's only going to be affecting people who are buying new developments, so brand new builds. A lot of people had this strategy where they would buy a condo and put money down and get the contract, and then 6 months, 8 months down the road, before the property was even built, they would wholesale or flip that contract for a profit, avoiding taxes and just getting a nice clean profit. So that is no more, and they haven't really put a lot more detail into this, but it seems like they're also talking about just wholesaling period in all of Ontario. So not just the new builds, wholesaling period, seems like it might not be allowed, or if it is going to be allowed, you're going to have to pay land transfer tax and pay your taxes based on that, which means a lot of wholesalers won't even do that anymore. It won't be worth it really. But there's still, so for my wholesalers out there in Kitchener who are finding me properties and sending me private deals, there's still a way where we can still do a wholesale fee. I'm not going to say how to do that here on camera, but wholesaling can still be possible easily. We'll just have to, play with the new rules a little bit and change our strategy as the rules change, which is what real estate investors and business owners have to do all the time, right? When the market changes, we don't freak out and back out and run away. We just change the strategy a little bit, okay? So those are the top 3 kind of major changes that are coming, and they're started implemented today, right away. So those are the top 3 I can say that how they're going to affect real estate investors. Long story short, it's really not going to affect real estate investors at all, really. If anything, I think it might be slightly positive in the short term. Now, there is talk about a lot of unintended consequences that this could cause. We'll see how those play out. Obviously, every political decision or government decision will always have an unintended consequence down the road. We'll see what that is and how that plays out. But to be honest, as an investor, still in the acquiring phase of my business, I'm still trying to buy properties. I'm honestly very happy with the changes that came out today. It's likely going to cool the market down a little bit, which is going to make my stage of my business easier. The market is too hot right now, too insane. I can't compete with irrational home buyers who are just paying ridiculous prices, making offers that are not based on fundamentals, not based on data, not based on comparable sales. They'll just throw a number in the air and buy a property. Well, we investors can't do that. So it's been very tough for me as an investor to continue buying. I'm happy with these changes a little bit. If it cools down the market, good. That means I can keep buying properties. But how do we go from here going forward? How do we be strategic investors even though with these changes, okay? Here's the thing. You want to buy for cash flow today. If you can find a property with great fundamentals, and again, as the finance minister said from Ontario, he said Ontario is booming, which is why we're kind of in this boom, real estate boom right now, because the economy is also booming. We have population growth through the roof. There's lots of people from all of the provinces of Canada moving to Ontario because there's jobs. And when there's jobs, real estate demand increases, real estate prices increase, which is part of the reason why this whole boom is going on in the first place, is because Ontario is kicking ass. Long story short, that's how it is. So when you're buying in a good area and good fundamentals, such as Kitchener, Waterloo, and Cambridge, our fundamentals are amazing in Ontario, okay? So it's a very safe place to park your money and buy real estate. So we want to be buying for cash flow first. If we can find a good property in a good area that cash flows on day 1 here in Kitchener, Waterloo, and Cambridge, that's your main thing. Forget all this other crap. That doesn't really matter. Why? Because we're investing for long term, which I'll get in a second. But first, we're buying for cash flow. Number 2, we're buying for tenant attraction. So again, good areas. We want to buy in a good area with a cash flowing property, and then we want to be patient. This is the most important one, which pretty much means you want to be a long-term investor. As I always talk about, you want to have at least a 5-year plan, is what I've always said when buying real estate for long-term, to really make the most amount of money you can to make it worth it. But now, as I've recently said, you really want to bump up that projected timeline to at least 7 to 10 years, because we don't know what's going to happen with the market going forward. We know now we're in a big real estate boom, but what happens after a boom phase in the real estate cycle? I wonder, a correction, which is why the government is trying to calm that correction, but the market will likely always do what it's going to do, and it's going to correct itself no matter what the government does. But they were trying to, slow it down a little bit. So we know what's likely going to come in the future. Again, this is the second longest boom we've ever experienced in recorded history. The first one was before 2008, 2009, and we know what happened then. Not to say that if the correction comes, or when the correction comes, that's going to be that bad, but it's definitely going to come. And probably in the near future, we're due for one in a sense. Now, it doesn't really work that way, but historically, we're kind of due for one. So you want to invest long term, because we don't know what's going to happen with the market. We know now it's hot and everything's good and everything works out nice, but you want to plan to be strategic, because if you hold your properties for the long term, you will likely always win. Okay, so that's the video. If you learned anything, if you like this video, please click like right below this video. And to find out more about my real estate investing apprenticeship program, how I take people one-on-one and we invest in real estate together, you can click right about here to find out more about that. And you can watch some more of my videos right about here. See you in the next video.